What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about WB Montreal and them making a DC game that's a live service. Now, we have so much to freaking talk about there, but I do just want to start with some of the weird, interesting type stuff of how people found this. And you know what? They would have gotten away with it in terms of like public knowledge. They would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for one job posting, because you go to their careers, okay, and they got a long list of them. And, this actually, I think, kind of puts into context, like, we got some more waiting to do. Executive producer, rendering programmer, senior advanced VFX artist, senior gameplay AI programmer, senior rendering programmer, senior producer. Now, we've talked about this actually multiple times with multiple studios. Whenever you have a lot of those seniors or leads, means, at least in my opinion, well, actually one of two things. Either they're very far away from release and they're trying to build up that team, which I imagine is happening here, or they lost people on their way to the game and they need to replace them. That one is not necessarily ideal, right, if you're losing all these high-level people. So for this, I imagine this is just them kind of staffing up. So it's interesting to me, because you see that in news. It's a DC game. It's a live service game. We'll talk about that in a second. But, where does it come from? It actually only comes from the executive producer. The rest of the jobs only talk about it being a AAA game. In fact, I think maybe the rendering programmer, one of them, talks about how they're actually going to be helping with other studios as well as them. They mention NetherRealm and Avalanche, which is makers of Hogwarts Legacy. So we know that WB Montreal is kind of a support studio for WB, as well as they make their own games. They're a pretty big team. Remember, they have over like 300 people. So it's just to start it off, it is just interesting that only one job actually says it comes from the DC portfolio. And in that job, and we'll look at it right now, that's where they mention twice, actually, it being a live service game. So, one hint at it, they say from concept to launch and beyond. So actually, sorry, they say it 3 times. That first one we just said, then they say this: oversees all phases of development from concept to post-launch live operations. So that's the hint. That's very close to what they're about to say a certain word, right? But they don't say it there, but they actually do say it towards the bottom here. So they say oversees post-launch content and live service strategy, ensuring ongoing player engagement. So that's, up until that point, you say okay, launch and beyond. Well, that hints that there is something beyond a launch. And they talk, then they almost say it, but they don't say word for word it's a live service. Then they quite literally say live service. Now, just to be clear, okay, just because you're a live service game does not mean you're immediately marked with a devil and you're terrible. I think and I even said this on Twitter to a couple people, I'm just taking the odds. I'm just simply looking, and the meme of how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? All of that I think very much applies to this situation. You can be a good live service game. There are good live service games, okay? But when you look at what WB Games has done in the recent memory, and also I actually think about it in reverse. I actually think, when's the last time we actually just got a game that existed as a single-player thing? So Wonder Woman would have had live service elements incorporated. It was canceled, okay? Gotham Knights, that started definitely as a live service thing, and there's still elements of that in there, and there was post-launch stuff. So I'm not really going to count that as just a standalone single-player experience. It's probably the closest, but it's not all the... Again, I'm talking about just factually what released and just was what it was. I really think you have to go back to Arkham Knight in order to do that. Hogwarts Legacy is probably one, but that's not, DC. To be fair, we haven't had almost any, right? But Suicide Squad, complete live service thing, complete failure. Gotham Knights, kind of middle ground type game situation, and it actually probably turned out to be the best, absolutely the best of those two, and actually a pretty solid game. But why can't we just get an Arkham Knight in Arkham City? Go back to the mid to early 2010s. That's kind of how I look at it. Is number one, you just look at the odds and you look at the entire industry, right? Most live service things are actually going towards failure, right? Only the few special cases actually carve out something, all right? That's a statistical freaking fact. I'm done being nice about this because I actually just think it's kind of pathetic at a certain point that You do Suicide Squad, they specifically do Gotham Knights. They help, by the way, with everything else. And you can't figure out to just try to do something a little bit different. And not even a little bit different, just go back. You made Arkham Origins. You literally have done this before. Now, probably not the people that are there now, but the studio, in terms of name only, has done it before. I can't believe it. I really, like, you know where the industry's going. You know that they are slowly learning lessons about live service. They're seeing it in real time, and they're incredibly slow to react to what is happening. But specifically WB Games, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Specifically them. They just had Suicide Squad. Does that not make you rethink your entire strategy, where you look at every team, every game, which, by the way, they kind of did that in the first place, because they do go over the games and they make sure they reach certain benchmarks and they evaluate them. And they literally did that with Wonder Woman. And it did not meet what they wanted it to meet, and they canceled it and they shut down Monolith. So it's like they do look at these things to see how they're doing. Why? Now, I am happy it's a DC game. I'll say that. Remember, there was actually that rumor from Jason Schreier that they were pitching a Game of Thrones game. So that seemingly is, like I said, it is interesting. It's only one job posting that says it's a DC game, but it's a DC game. Like that, like literally hiring one of the highest positions at a development studio, and it's for a DC game. So the game is not a Game of Thrones game. It's a DC game. Not saying he was necessarily wrong. They could have pitched a Game of Thrones thing, but they could have settled on a DC thing. Now, okay, well, moving on, just like the outright hatred of this situation, what could they do? Again, like, can there be good that comes from this? So one idea would actually be a Gotham Knights 2. Again, you look at Gotham Knights 1, and it was a fine game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Gotham Knights was amazing, okay? I think some people might say that, but I think very few people would actually say that the game was amazing. Was it solid? Yes. Do I think it'll age well? Probably, actually, yes. I don't think I can sit here and just reasonably tell you that it was like a Game of the Year type game. So, okay, Gotham Knights 2, I mean, you were building in that direction. You could lean more into the co-op and multiplayer type elements of, there's also the element of, like, how live service like are we going? Is DLC after a game coming out live service? Like, what means live service? Like, does it mean a shallow, hollow shell of a freaking game that then is expanded upon as a DLC and as later on, like Suicide Squad? Or are we talking this is a full-on package and then we're just going to kind of support it long term? I've said, and I pitched this to you guys when Gotham Knights came out, Teen Titans. Again, you could go in that direction in that universe. You already have a couple of them. I think it's reasonable to think, that you could do a Teen Titans. Justice League is another one. I'm trying to think of teams. Now, Teen Titans is one that I've been talking about for literally years, 3, 4, 5 years. Justice League, well, I think we've all thought of Justice League probably just as long, if not longer. Again, I guess the thing for me, do I really want a Teen Titans and Justice League game from them like this? And the answer is, to be honest and also try to be optimistic, the answer is at best, I don't know. At worst, it's just flat out no. It's just please don't touch those. But at best, it's, well, maybe, but you never fully know. I mean, those are really, I've seen people mention like a Marvel Rivals competitor. And you also have that Marvel fighting game that's coming out next year. So, like, Marvel's doing quite well in that, like, online, like, Overwatch-y type, arena with Rivals, and then literally, like, a fighting type situation with that game. So, I can understand wanting competition to that. I think you absolutely could with DC. Like, there's nothing really stopping you. This is the wrong team to do it. And this is not for as much as I'm critical on them, I do care. I'm trying to be honest, but I'm trying to be respectful. But that is not a team built to make a fighting game. That's not a team built to make whatever you call like the Marvel Rivals, which is kind of a fighting game, but also kind of whatever genres you want to classify those as. This is not a team built for that. And that's just, I think, a factual freaking fact. It's like you did not build this team out to do that. You still absolutely have holdovers from Gotham Knights, and I find it very hard to believe you're building a team to do a Marvel Marvel Rivals clone. So I don't know. Again, like, does that make sense? Yeah, there's a lot of potential there. There clearly is a market for it. When somebody probably copies something though, so just ripping it from it, I don't know how successful or how good that game could possibly be. So there would be hesitancy no matter who makes a game like Marvel Rivals for DC. Because if you're just literally stealing it, you got to come at it with a different angle. You'd clearly be coming at it because they made it, and so you would want to make the exact same thing. So there's something at its core already wrong there. But honestly, pushing that to the side, I just don't think that's what they're doing. So for me, I think it's team-based. Or Gotham Knights, but Gotham Knights is literally also a team. I don't know how really anybody can sit back here and say this is a great move. I think at best there's skepticism on this immediately, and at worst you just made everybody turn your back on, because doing Suicide Squad is harmful. It is. And even though it's not from WB Montreal and they did Gotham Knights, which is a far superior game to Suicide Squad, you go in the order of what we've gotten for DC and these studios, and that hurts. And also just, you can look at each studio individually. WB Montreal making one game in 9 years. This is not, I think, a good idea to go back to live, especially, by the way, for this audience. Like the audience that I really think they're trying to go for a totally different audience. They were trying to do that with Suicide Squad. They were probably trying to do that with Gotham Knights. And I think they're trying to do that maybe just like overall. So you're leaving behind millions who are actually still there, clearly there, and ready to support something good and something that they actually like. You're going for a whole different audience. And then, as we talked about with Suicide Squad, you don't even do it right. So I don't know. That's Suicide Squad. That's not this. Again, Gotham Knights was fine. It was good. Maybe solid. I don't know. Whatever freaking keyword you want to use. But I just don't know why we have to go back to it. I feel like, here's the thing. It's complacency as well. At the very least, it's like, well, as I just said, like Gotham Knights wasn't like an elite game. So you're not, for people saying like, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it, or like doubling down on something that worked. It did sell. It did sell. So in that way, it did work. But like, is Gotham Knights really the game we want to double down on? The type of game that Gotham Knights is that really the game you want to try a second time to really make sure you nail it? Is that the one? Like, doesn't that sound like complacency where it's like, well, it was fine, so I guess we could like do it again? It's like, well, can't you shoot for like something higher? Like, is that something we're capable of doing? I think it is. I think you can do it. I don't know. But look, it's years away. Maybe I shouldn't get myself too worked up. I mean, ultimately, it's something I will cover. It's something we will talk about, and I'll give it, a chance. I try to give almost every game that I talk about a chance at the very least, but I'm just severely disappointed that this is the path that we're taking again. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.